Gange Lodru Jemye Jendra Nidara Namdara Vzal Chenye Dungun Chishin Sejir Nije Dogale Bonz Kanda Zebe Zera Mare Mundon Dongal Gezervi Rozo Gunla Boje Darz Yela Joju Yandes Roda Jero Nyomoni Nisha Jojo Zenjin Mare Munze Dongal Nyugu Chinye Jezeral Jena Dene Daje Zaje Tarzan Yende Lezo Jaze Doeng Chunja Joda Chunye Tentre Dale Munze Jam Yang La Marabazana Om Arabazanande Seden Je Jera Seraj Tale De Mombarazane Kadan Denje Jolo Dobai Lord Bobe Nawa Dosu Kanze Dawar de Ba Chonse Chewar de Nayam Kombo Jamyan de Nin Keme Bar Yang Dong War Shu Laso Tene Tamje Changju Jodo Todi Be Kolonge Saldam December Shu Nata de la Kanche Sembar Jo Chudi Rembani Tene Sum Kondel Na Chebe Yumi Nane Tanda Ane Mobi Tene Ki Kondel Do Sambi Tenjo Che Chag Yore Ane Chenata Ngombe Tene Teba Chembe Shengo Bada Teba Nidu Tebe Ane Chengo Ba Chengo Ba Rimi No Ni Yung Yore Di Nana Tanda Ane Nidu Teba Da Changju Sembe Teba Yongzo Ki Ane Ngombe Ki Nedun Tamche Chiblo Dresha Ki Tenjo Ane Kebe Tsula Jibungo Shecha Da Me Paro Me Che Sumba Deni Re Deni Shua La Deni Nechu Domshi Sozo Yanda Bariba Hi Deni Yubi Nang Ne Da Nang Azo Kebe Nechu Di Nang Ne Keba Temba La Keba Deni Re Tan De La Temba Hi Yubi Nang Ne Kunjungi Temba Hibi Kabre De Doa De Nang Gashi Shu Chub Che Kazange Chwe Ne Kane Ma Shuki
Sorry for this. So at the beginning of class, please give rise to bodhicitta, the vast motivation, and listen with that vast motivation to the teachings. Generally, we can say that there are the three baskets of teachings. There's the Vinaya, the Sutra, and the Abhidhamma. And they're the words of the Buddha as well as the commentaries. The text that we are concerned with is a commentary, particularly on the Abhidhamma. There are actually also two major traditions of the Abhidhamma, that the Abhidhamma of the Mahayana, the greater vehicle, and the Abhidhamma of the Shravakayana. And the text that we are studying here is actually a combination of all the important points of these two strands of Abhidhamma. And the text that does that, the text that combines the Abhidhamma teachings, the important points of the Abhidhamma teachings of the two traditions, is The Gateway to Knowledge by Mibam Rinpoche. And the presentation is outlined by the 10 topics of expertise, the 4 seals of Dharma, and the 4 correct discriminations, out of which we are currently discussing the 10 topics of expertise. And within those, we have reached the 8th topic, which is the topic of the truth, which is a discussion of the 4 noble truths. And we are currently discussing the second truth, which is the truth of origin, and we have covered already a number of paragraphs and topics in that section, and will now continue from where we have left off yesterday.
Yang kamsum sa ko la nang se kurere chewe jaji la kombangare ni te tamje du yobe jaji ba tsenanga yeja dang nga tadi kazang tse de ra re do zidam chot kaga na geje she inzare ne kombangji da ne shibje juji le danji ne geje she da ka chokaga ne re do kamsum no sa ko la nang se kamsula kamsum saku se de jana sukam ishi sumegam shi debekam chi ku cha so ha de re la ta ku de kam de la yang ku samne dang bla ku ni bla ku de chen ku che so na ne jaju cha gro wa ku jaju la ta tine ku jaju de la ne kombang nga dik samala yoyo karwa, kondro mayimba ji shema nga dik samala yoyo kare. Ode nga re ni tamche do yoyo bane gyajik tsema nga la kazo chazi shijia dang nga chak doos. De ting doibe sa kuyo kondro gu neme ta, tenji kondro di zane neme ba yunju, ta kondro gu di luya re. Kondro gu neme sona ne, kondro gu neme shijia jushi tata chak doos, zilu sa ma do, ngar dang tenji gu da. Gombang jije jubji dahara legi yore, da di dengdo tongdang jada junyi nengar chena, nga jen yu za ruden dada cha rugu wasa.
Okay, we are now in paragraph 1092 on page 135. Furthermore, by dividing each of the 9 levels of the 3 realms into 9 subdivisions, each of these 81 subsections will consist of 5 discards by means of the path of cultivation. As a whole, multiplying these 81 times 5 equals 405 discards. In addition, augmenting them with the 9 types of anger of the 9 levels of the desire realms accounts to 414. But besides being just another method of calculating, it is essentially the same as before. So here now we just have a different way of enumerating the discards according to the Abhidhamma Samujaya. It really comes down to the same number that we have seen yesterday. It's just a slightly different way of coming to that number. So here the basis is the 9 levels of the 3 realms. So there are 4 levels in the formless realm, there are 4 levels in the form realm, and there's 1 level in the desire realm. Together that makes 9 levels of the 3 realms. And then the next step slightly varies from what we have seen before. Now here we divide each of the 9 levels of the 3 realms into 9 levels each. That makes then 81 levels, right? 81 subsections. 9 levels to each of the 9 levels of 9 subsections to each of the 9 levels of the 3 realms makes 81. And since we're talking about the path of cultivation here, there are 5 discards that are equal to all of the realms, right? Only anger is specific to the desire realm. All the other 5 discards apply to all 3 realms, so we take those first. So we multiply now the 81 subsections of these 9 levels of the 3 realms by 5, because each of them has 5 discards minimum. And that makes us arrive at the number of 405 discards. But because we haven't counted anger yet, that exists in the 9 subsections of the desire realm, we have to add 9 discards that are anger of the desire realm. And so 405 plus 9 then makes 414, the same number that we had previously for the path of cultivation. And if we add another, again, the 112 discards on the path of seeing, then we come back to our total number of 526 discards.
So, 네, 정말 봐, 사바숨 소리에 와라. ngomba ome lukna ngom kongma daryewa ni tangbo la dorden jeshe so ta lemdwa ten tangbo ngomba ome luk ngomba zogi luk de la delen zogi luk tara chebe kamsum de pangja re nga char tomba kodyo be tengdu na da ngomba zogi luk la kamsum de pangja de dombe nga zo kubju kodyo zi sayin ba 대 고주 거지 땡도 도배 방자 공시 군지제 야게 강라단 군지 무 더무가다 니단 god바다 교바다 타도다 설나다 고선배바다 철매바 제비 군지 제래지 가서 야가 군지 제비 값을 내서와 다 군지 제 여바 인가 다 단다 양 군지 셔다 때에서 메라고 실레버 군지 주세는 질레버 요래 군지 제라 아니 계기 땡도 아니 초하다 차바 초하다 차보다 딘도 돈다래를 시가이 요마가서 삼중시비 가서 진짜로 초하다 차바제 군지주 제번 내면에는 군지주 자소와 방제 대답한 이제 돈배 자다 계에서 딱 저유로라 제단 방제 kub지 거제요 대된도 군지주는 용도 가서 잘해 자단 제 자소와서 다디 제디랑라 아니 거바르 다면도 원게 사보숨 초시 다데네 사보숨도 초시나 조로시다 년년실 야월에 다 거하나 거바 요래서 거바 가래래 람마 거바 된저 제당 노망도 휴임바질 감숨제 방자디 kub주 겁제 당 데나나 만데바 요마래 콜 나서야와 제바이나 하는 개바 뭐지 여봐 아니 로봇 제바는 거기 거기는 만져봐 요 말해대 이나 강사 개바레레레 르다 하면다 뭐 연구를 강사 감다 왕보다 매바당 아니 내내지 민도 자용도 방자 방송 중세 민도 연구해 봐다 가시 믹스 군지 된도로 돈낭 여봐 가시 믹서 조로라 돈낭 여봐 되네 방을 님보 된 제도는 양 좀된데 우리 되는 된도 나라 로가로 송샤바 되네 야망도 연구를 늘작 이 감로 되바다 오말로 되바 한 거바 된소래 된소라 되는 사고 숨초 힐라소바데 송샤유래서 다 디여디 간에 간데라서냐 원래 레벨에 다 자다 계지 쓰소아 자다 게 디랑라 아니 주시데 팔라체 사바숨 된즈 팔라체 녀월레바 시데 코랑 예와 제단지 레변 그래 다데 원래 칼레 주기
So now we have reached the next point in our outline, the 15th classification, which is the classifications of the 3 defilements. So here now we will classify these defilements that we have seen and we will classify these discards again in different ways, addressing the 3 defilements, the 4 rivers, the 4 bonds, and the 4 perpetuations. So how these discards can be divided or summarized into these 4 these different classifications, how they fit in there. And so the text reads, when counting according to the system of the Abhidhamma Kosha, in addition to the tally of 98 summed up from the 5 classes of discards of the 3 realms, there are 108 altogether by adding the above mentioned 8 fetters, which together with Fura and concealment make 10 fetters. For specific purposes, they are divided into the 3 defilements, the 4 rivers, the 4 bonds, and the 4 perpetuations. So, if we think back at the classifications of the discards in the Abhidhamma Kosha, we saw that there are these 98 discards in the 3 realms. So, yeah, we had a total on the path of seeing and the path of cultivation, we had a total of 98 discards. Now, for our purpose here now, we will also add the 8 fetters because they are also preventing, like they're also something that needs to be discarded in order to gain realization. So in order to achieve the path of cultivation, of seeing. And so the 8 fetters that we saw were sluggishness, sleep, excitement, regret, envy, stinginess, shamelessness, and lack of conscience. So that we saw within the discussion of these different classifications previously. Now we also add 2 more fetters to make up 10 fetters, which are fury and concealment. What exactly these 10 fetters consist of, we don't need to repeat now because we have already gone through each of these subsidiary afflictive emotions in the context of the mental states. So these are just the same as we have seen them in the mental states. If we add these 10 fetters to the 98 discards, according to that we accounted for in the Abhidhamma Kosha, we have a total of 108 discards. And so those we can now divide into these different categories. Like, how do they fit into the 3 defilements, the 4 rivers, the 4 bonds, and the 4 perpetuations? Why is this necessary? It is actually really necessary because we have already seen that the number of 98 is not a final number. of discards. We can further and further divide the discards for those beings who have the propensity, the mental faculty, and also the inclination to a more and more detailed classification and identification of the discards. So we have already seen how we can break it down further and further and further, right? And so similarly, what is happening here now in the kosha, or according to the kosha, or also then in accordance to the Abhidhamma Samuccaya, is that for different beings, different classifications, different ways of speaking about the defilements is necessary according to their inclinations, their capacities, and so on. And so for some, it is beneficial to break down the defilements, the discards, in terms of the four defilements. For some, it's the rivers. The three defilements, or the four rivers, the four bonds, and the four perpetuations. So we are counting here for the different propensities, the different inclinations and capacities of sentient beings, what is helpful for them, and what they want, what they're interested in order to contextualize the disturbing emotions. That's why so many different enumerations, so many different classifications are happening here.
So then nyeba kebar sheba deredo dela sabosum do yawa chu chi nan jora shir yawa nyewa namba shir yawa denere mano sumdu ta dinane chu hi di sabosum di here do sabosum ane kono mari bi sagba do bi sagba si bi sagba sana dene sumdo ji tse go yore Mariba Sabade comes on la Kyan Kuso de He Mariba Todu Yosungira, Zemba Tembahi Nelusana Mendo, Temba Nelu de Mado Becha de la Mariba Serioba, the Mariba Sama and Logache Yondu, and Chicha Mariba Sabacha. And that Mariba Pube, and Hen de become the Panja Yonzo. 아니 통람지 방정이나다 검람지 방정이나다 방자 강보 냠도 지제 근데는 더비 사바스는 surdu siyaga yore. Sibi sagbasi desana sokhamda somekamla yokengi. Ta mariba yongzopi ka sokhamla mariba nga yorwa. Tongnamji hi gombangchi jibe ne nga somekamla yang daga nashindu nga yongu yore mariba. Naso pangjari nga sakanjaya ba tungal kunjung goba lamdengi mogalda gyurbe mariba hi dang gombangji mariba chikchebi kam gombala yang kam gomba sogam langa some kam langa jibi chu yung yore wata dinzo pibi ani hemba nyomo ba yongzo kare la tsira se to zana sibe sakba asana tsiro yore wa dende sayo dom dende ni chaba na dende da yore yasa.
So this is then followed by, so this was the brief explanation of these, how we account for the 108 discards here. And now we come to the detailed explanation, which then individually addresses these different classifications, so the 3 defilements, the 4 rivers, the 4 bonds, and the 4 perpetuations. If we first speak about the 3 defilements, then these are the defilement of ignorance, the defilement of desire, and the defilement of existence. Ignorance is taken as a particular defilement since it constitutes so the ignorance of the 3 realms constitutes the main cause for samsara. It's the mistaken grasping, and it's the not realizing of the reality of the 4 noble truths that constitutes this ignorance. It's the fundamental problem. Therefore, it's counted separately here. And then we have the defilement of desire, which constitutes all the discards of the desire realm. So both of the path of seeing as well as the path of cultivation, excluding ignorance, which we already accounted for in the defilement of ignorance. So all the other defilements that relate to the truth, to the desire realm, both for the path of seeing as well as the path of cultivation, are included in the defilements of desire. And then we have the defilements of existence. And again, we have to exclude the defilements that are ignorance. So for the path of the form realm and the formless realm, it's 5 discards of ignorance each, because on the path of seeing in the form realm there are 4 discards that are ignorance, plus 1 on the path of cultivation. And then the same holds true for the formless realm. They again 5 ignorances. So those we have to exclude from the defilements of existence. Otherwise, all defilements that belong to the form and formless realms are accounted for here.
소다 자와거나 날라 당보 감숨기 마리 바정아 발라 마리 바사바 셰자데 뇽몽군지 자와오 송샤도아 아데네로 동 데베캄라 네 동방 히로아 동알 군중고 발람 대실라는 마리 바양 레레여 바인데 마리 바시 아니 공방에 마리 바치 제베 네 방제랭아에 마리 방아 와테가 다 나신도 제버지잖아 소캄라 양 마리 방아 소마캄라 마랑 방아 유비 마리 바정아 송인 바레 디 마리 바텔라 정아 버튼 줄라 마리 바사발라 그래서 가서 뇽모 군지 자와오 나조다 균 탐제 중사 시대 마셰 바로와 하마고 바데로와 덴바는 내순는 거 마소 바데로와 쓰기래 덴바다 내순는 거 마소 바 인도에 출로고 이래 는 감메불랑아 셴메발라셴 나당가이 나 셴다 셴도 숭용도 아니 데이터업데이트네 뇽모 셴바 탐제 중도거든 가서 뭐마 다 군중이 고수베 갑라양 타게 성명 따게요 봐 거 시자와 머리가 타와되네 야 zembazi shukchera shuru zhoyongdu ani koroji chua tamje ani leda nyomongbo topje ani tongal tamje nje tuwe ye gyu hi namba la tesa na nga zu tonga megyo rojirwa nyomongbo doja shedang tenmo korang mige tonga kanyo mara hamjo gyo koya kanyo mara simni nyonga rwa tawa namba jire deyore di tawa jing ge sona di koro shua tamje chungtukudu wa 디 중사 힘 엄마들네 가래라마 자와 마리 바데라 투도 요송거래 제상되네 뇽모바 탐제기 희암 자와데 네 마르바 예서 마르바 정하바 저래 송거래 히 마르바 예나 다고 지용아 여와체 초고여와 나서
And if we now look at paragraph 1094 in the text, among these 108 discards, first there are the so-called defilements of ignorance, comprising the 15 types of ignorance of the 3 realms, which are the root of all the disturbing emotions. So the first of the 3 defilements here are the defilements of ignorance. And we have seen that in the desire realm there are 5 types of ignorance, because we are looking at the 5 classes of defilements. Again, the defilements, the discards on the path of seeing, when seeing each of the noble truths, making 4, plus the discards of the path of cultivation. So each of them, there is one ignorance counted. So we have 5 ignorances, 5 types of ignorance in the desire realm. And then we have the same 5 classes of discards applying to the form and the formless realms, each of them featuring one type of ignorance. So total we have 15 types of ignorance in the 3 realms. And so why do we take them separately here? It's because ignorance really describes this fundamental not knowing, which is not to know the truths for the nature and to not know how the things really are, how the reality really is, the abiding mode. And so not knowing how things truly are leads to confusion, that leads to grasping, that leads to an identification with an I and a mine, and so on. And that is a very subtle thing, a very subtle defilement. Yet it actually develops into a big problem. We spoke about the defilements previously as being also called subtle developers. So starting with the subtle not knowing, a subtle type of ignorance, these 15 types of ignorance, then that as the root constitutes the root. And as if that's not uprooted, as it develops, right? That ignorance will develop from being very subtle to being more and more manifest, and that leads then to the development of karma and afflictive emotions, which are the cause for all suffering. And so, these afflictive emotions that cause karmic actions, they are something that we really have to experience, and not something we hear from the outside, or that we feel, but physically, but it's a mental experience, right? And so these afflictive emotions, in the first place, they come from the fundamental problem of ignorance. They're all based on ignorance of the wrong and identification with reality, or of reality. So all the afflictions that we spoke about already previously, they fundamentally come from ignorance. And then we can also divide ignorance according to the way that we have just seen into these 15 types of ignorance.
So, ni de lama dobi sawa xieji esa. Da jadang jenane ma babura. Jadang jenane jonga chen saware. Jadang ngazu dogam la ngoma ngazu pang tongbang sumju soni gombang xi jebe dene sumju soju zhuru ji zigi yoba. Sumju soju dengdu da tenje yage kangla kundi chu sekende döba khona la char go yore. Kam komani la ndige mebare. Kaza la kam komani de samden ji sabara wa. Ko zo tingenzin ngazo samden sako yobi nane dözüm tseji ba de tarchin de döbe je pangja de zo pang ta kazo gore dang yin bang döbe pangja tsame de tang tu mar de ni 내가 고는 전에 burjum sanam에도 고는 전에 침바인 아니 현에 3년 당보지 윤된데 줄게 두고 요래. 근데 3년 제 봤으면 시바든 상마라 다하나신 인도 드비 쇼로에 견 망보지 컨트롤 요 말에. 디인도 군지 주사근데 대감라 원주라 요래. 배나 목바니 Muni gojo taudo sangane zora, taudo na serna da ngaza meba na tel meba sagan chubo di dokham la ngonjurwa yore, ngazo ni koko yore, ni di ngazo dokham di tsoye ji gyuzo jire, sokam songme kamla ni koko yo mara, sangma tingen zi kana dhugo urwa. Ani mugba yang koko yo mara, goba dan gyoba na taudo ta dinzo khayang khonzo la ngonjurwa zane yo mara. Chedu di chubo di dokham la mado, kam koma nila kyuni zi koko mido. Chedu, 감숨제 통금제 방제 돈 망보 제바이 데스카 딩보지 제바이나 딩보스 거와 디여바 숨주 소주 지여바 숨주 소주 간라 다 군지 주된 내서나 십지 셔주 샤송아 디나나 당가서 가리된 상이 남나 십지 셔주 나네 응아말 매바 차자래 가ring아 매바 차르서는 말이 방가 되와 데베 말이 방가 파 야게 간라 mari ba Quran na chui sawa indu debe sawa heji salabare ader deba la ko badi ongbo chogi yulto sagorwa seba ragba ngonjuro shikchambu ni se na ragba hechobal ragba rojla chogi yore migi na amjo ina chama ragba ngonjuro shikchambu dinzola de debi yundin dinzo ne longzo chune degen inzang debe kamsagorwa 데 되바든 저기 라 명몽원주를 근데 아니 희주 셰주 된 거래서
The remaining discards are the 41 defilements of desire and the 52 defilements of existence, meaning the 2 times 26 found in the 2 upper realms. So when we speak then about the defilements of desire, there are 41 of them left. So we need to take the total number of 108, and we have already seen the 15 types of ignorance now, so we can subtract those. The rest of the discards that are remaining now apply to the desire realm and the higher realms. In the desire realm, if we look back at the previous presentation, in the desire realm we said there are a total of 32 discards on the path of seeing and 4 discards on the path of cultivation, makes a total of 36 discards. And here now we have to also add the 10 fetters. This is where they belong. They only need to be added to the desire realm because they're really only discards in the desire realm. In the higher realms, they do not apply because the higher realms, so the form and the formless realms, are featuring meditative absorption. One reaches the rebirth in those higher realms through perfection of meditative absorption. So a one-pointedly focused mind that has already abandoned these obstacles to meditation. We said that these 10 fetters were problems with regard to one's meditation practice. And so even though they might not be completely uprooted when achieving the higher realms, they are at least suppressed, they're at least temporarily prevented from arising. And so the mind that remains in the meditative absorptions of the higher realms is for now free of those 10 fetters, must have already gotten rid of these 10 fetters, even if it's not completely uprooted, but only suppressed for the time being. And so the desire realm is not like that. In the desire realm, those 10 fetters like sluggishness, sleep, excitement, regret, envy, stinginess, shamelessness, lack of conscience, fury, and concealment, they're actually a problem. They are preventing the meditative absorptions and so on. And all of these mental states actually only apply to the desire realm because they are related to the sustenance or to the way of living in the desire realm. Sleep, for example, is only necessary in the desire realm. In the form and formless realms, the function of that sustenance through sleep is substituted by meditative absorption. There's meditative absorption gives that gives the energy. So in that way, the 10 fetters, they only apply to the desire realm. And so we need to count them here and then not in the form and formless realms. So when we enumerated all the disturbing emotion, all the discards on the in the desire realm, we said there are 36 plus the 10 fetters makes 46 discards. But since we have already accounted for the 5 ignorances, the 5 kinds of ignorance, when we talked about the defilements of ignorance, we can subtract the 5 types of ignorance of the desire realm here, and 46 minus 5 then makes 41 defilements. And so these 41 defilements really constitute that which is experienced in the desire and what needs to be gotten rid of when traversing the paths in the desire realm. And that means that they are the 6 objects of this sense objects as a mental object that are being engaged in. There's a very coarse manifestation of the objects. So the coarse manifestation of sight, of form, coarse manifestation of sound, smell, and so on. And those are what the being of the desire realm, or the senses of the being of the desire realm engage in. And craving that kind of enjoyment of these coarse manifestations of the objects is why we call it desire realm in the first, why we call it the desire realm. And so these are then the discards. The 41 are the discards of the desire realm. Here, when we talk about the defilements of the desire realm.
So, then, come Homanina, near Juk Zen Nide, Sibi Sabanga Jungani, Yotosa. Ne, Tadi come Homani la Yubi Savat and Josla, Sibi Sabas and Mindago Yure. Chedang Nazo Sibas Jusana, Korucha Tamjel Sibas and Mindago Yoroa. And Juda Jen Nega Zomba ina, Kayang Chung Sigire, Kawalan Ke Sigire, Tendre Inzan Sibas and Lapshabare. Red Onan Jiming Chadala Karijan Jenetabare Labduzana, Kamsum Yi Pangjan, Kalan Kansam Jipang Simba ina Yang, Ina Danon Sibala Mandeba, Sibu Koruchan and Latiba, Siba Minute, Tendre into Sibas Lapshare, Kam Komani Bodella. 나 건전이라다 유비 레다 뇽몽바 니나다 뇽몽바 나바된돌라 나 시비 사바스 맹다샤로와 어디
yanke kamgama nila siba
감고만이들 시비 시바 스티르나조 코르셔 탐절 시바스리 디고 조선와라 아니 다 지밍 차라라다 라근다우시 세로와 나조 참마 미나야 강사 찔레도 밀레부도 세로와 인주 소소한 미인은 파주들 미명다고 되도 지명 자라라 따봐. 대다고 경전데 세벌로 유비 뇽몽바 나네 레다 뇽몽이 나네 조 뇽몽바들 시리요레 뇽몽바 칸라 칸삼지 빵세바 자원인다 빵요 말에데 칸나 gond은 교조도 가서 되비 사바든서 매바로와 아니 감컴만이 방자 소소소소라 요건다 방자 테스트를 하되 요바 인도 니 된절라네 예비 레다 녀모모 니기 대체비 녀모모 제된절라 아니 시베사 바사 그래서 된조 요소나야 규진드랑아래 된조 규진지 저 가와야 펜스기로 와 내가 가와라 깨발랑 쓰기로 와 어디네 인스베사 올라 그래서 나서
And then the text said that there are also these 52 defilements of existence, meaning the 2 times 26 found in the 2 upper realms. So when we speak about the defilements of existence here, then we speak about the defilements of the 2 upper realms. Now I need to make a little discourse here with the terminology from the translation perspective, because the term existence in Tibetan is sipa. And actually this is the word literally actually means possibility, right? It's possible that something happens. And so the word existence or possibility, and this is now what Khenpo explained, usually refers to the 3 realms, to the entirety of samsara, because when particular causes and conditions are present, then any kind of rebirth within the 3 realms is possible. That's why we call it the possibilities or the existence. These existences are possible. And so here now existence is applied only to the higher realms. So this word sipa, possibilities, is only applied to the higher realms as the defilements of existence, of possibility, in the same way that we usually speak about applying a term of a group or a generality to a specific. That's one way we can use a term, is to apply it to while the term usually applies to a generality, we might also use it for something specific. For example, we speak about people. We speak about humans, and then when one person comes around, we say, "Oh, this is one person," or "This is one human." And so, in that case, we use or we say, "Oh, there's a person coming," as the singular of people. There's a person coming, using the specific here. And so in a similar way here, existence is the generalized term for all samsara, for the 3 realms actually, for all possibilities. But we're using that on a specific only, on the specific of the 2 higher realms. And so in those 2 higher realms, actually, most of the afflictions have already been, are absent. They have been suppressed. Specifically, like when we speak about the truth of origination, then we speak about karma and affliction. But afflictions are really the basis, right? And most of them have already been suppressed. So in the higher realms, there are not as many afflictive emotions as in the desire realm. So only a few are left, a few possibilities are left, a few things that might propel existence. So a few things that defile the possibilities. the existences, meaning, and this is what we call then the defilements of existence. There are just a few defilements left that can propel or defile future existences within samsara. So these are then the defilements of existence, those in the higher realms.
숨주소니 나네 다 가서 대 된진 당신 전에 말해봐 나디마 님 말을 채용되잖아 니주 자로 차려래 한 대지고 지장 한 소감라야 다 나신 도되잖아 니주 자로 니기 하는 거 좀 많이 차도고 요서래 와시비 사바 딱 선남에다 감 공말로 요근이 녀몽바데 나중 많이 담아 요소는 살아요.
So, and then it says here that there are 52 defilements of existence, which refers to the 2 times 26 found in the 2 upper realms. So when we look at the form realm, for example, we previously spoke about 28 defilements on the path of seeing and 3 defilements discards, 28 discards on the path of seeing in the form realm, and 3 discards on the path of cultivation in the form realm, making 31 discards. And then we subtract again ignorance. So we had less already than in the desire realm because there was no anger. So, therefore, when we subtract the defilements that are anger, that do not exist in the form and formless realm, we have already less discards total. We have 28 in the path of seeing and so we have 31 discards, and then minus ignorance. So that leaves us with 26 in the form and 26 in the formless realm, together making 52 discards that constitute the defilements of existence.
다 되네 제 용도 아니 사고 돈베 감숨제 사고 돈 용도잖아 자단제 다달래 보고 이거래 근데 레바이 마셔 자체 아니 소소 칼레스는 데로와 녀모 바다게 세제네 나르메 비 파르지 세버케지 투기 메 원에 사버체베 나 사바셰차고 다 사바제시 잡단지래 사바제시 잡단지데 야게 강라 신사와와 미과다 중된 가능이고는 녀모바 개발체리 여상 아니 사바레스라 사제스라 되는 데시지 원라 신선바레 그 사바다 제바 세지 근데 사바서는 데시저도 직단 대란lep서 직다 용다 뭐바지 중나라 미과 중된 이고는 제시 비캅진 데시 된데나 뜸비도는 사바서도 녀모바랑라 무슨 제나치다 균 윤는 이게 균랑랑 무슨 제나다 양값까지는 단위의 제마 그다음에 배저당 두고 이래 다고 녀몽바레 나 사비 민다고 바데 코르와 계지긴 주소 보나지 말했어요와 제상 아니 녀몽바데 졸라 사바 선 민다바다 아니 균 랄라드잖아 다 코르와 나 냥데니디 냥데디 아니 윤데나데 말하시 Timadens of Mass Sebares, Gurua, Korwa di Lada Nyomba, Tamji, Jing Deba Inza, Yunyo into Sabat and the Juns and Minta Capture Ligua. Young Timas and the Chibachian Chazwa, Timadi, Koloru to Chunsha with Shajere, Konahin de Mare, Jazan Telania, Desert Nyomon by Shadenzala, Timayang Mindus take that over. Tambadiji Sona.
So we should have come up with a number of 108 now, and so we just take that as given for now. If you want to calculate it, you can do that by yourself slowly. And if we move on, from the summit of existence down to the incessant hell, these disturbing emotions defile by means of the absences of the six sense doors of abscesses of the six sense doors to cyclic existence. Then, thus they are called defilements. So here now we get another explanation of the word defilement. We have already seen one definition of defilements, why we call these disturbing emotions defilements. And that was then the definition that we saw previously was that everything that gives rise to afflictive, that which arises as afflictive emotions due to focus or co-occurrence is defined as a defilement. And with a general definition of the defilements, we said that defilements can actually be identified as the afflictions, also as all faults and all stains. So if we use that definition of the defilements, that which gives rise to the experiences of samsara based on co-emergence or focus as a defilement, then we have the afflictive emotions, we talk about faults, and we call it, we also can identify just stains as such. And afflictions are the defilements because the afflictive emotions are the main cause for the continuation of samsara, the experience of samsara. And so they are really that which, the defilements that cause samsara. We can identify defilements as faults because really nirvana is identified as the qualities that are without any stains, just the expression of the qualities. And so as being the counter, the opposing aspect of it, then samsara is constituted of the faults or the negativities. And then when we call it the stains, then this is to say that actually samsara, like the nature of phenomena is not that they're defiled. These are just stains that are added to, or that that obscure the nature of things, but without being the nature itself. So because of those reasons we speak, in these terms we can speak about defilements in general.
Kabala nyomoma denzo je mange nyawa narmela chendo gure kabala yeda kabala tundre kabala mit kanda 감숨 견로아 녀dem베바 강더 녀모버 셰쳐중당 아니 레셰쳐중 거랑거랑 뇌바는 귤라 땜베 아니 데오데아데네 거라 가와 가슬 깨버 지겨라 마도바 사지절라 견도 균을 하고요 말해 네 나조 미직라 삼노다마이나 세베체보 템바 가조 깨와랑사래 근데 장가스가라잖아 잠볼링 데 사자 레레는 가조 리우 도도 중중 맨지리고 나지 수여바지 이나 사데 조스기래 미직 세베체몰라 깨와랑교지 네 장가데 다롱 템그 말해 그냥 다가나진데 냐와나면 텔레망그로와 세베체모데 가조 뇽뇽레비요래 아니 걸어와 가서 냐와나 예다도 좀 망치여로 와 땡드는 가서 가서 깨와랑와데 장가요 말해서 나서 너무 되잖아.
So actually these 108 defilements, these 108 discards, that are those afflictive emotions, they have caused sentient beings to be reborn into different realms. Sometimes they might have pulled them up to even the summit of existence, the highest of the highest places within samsara. And sometimes these karma, these afflictions, these discards, these afflictive emotions have also pulled down sentient beings to the lowest realms in the hell realms, so the realms of incandescent and the hell, the incandescent hells, the lowest of the lowest hell realms, and so, and also to everything in between. Sometimes in the human realm, sometimes in the animal realm, in the hunger ghost realm, in the demigod realm, and in short, it's these afflictions that have caused rebirth throughout the three realms. And it's just a question of the type and extent of the karma that has been engaged in, to determine where within samsara they have beings are being reborn. So there are many different results, as there's a constant stream of causes. And that also means that a being is not left at one place, but there is another experience ripening at any time. So they're pulled up and down throughout samsara by these defilements. And even if we just think of a single human being, if we just think of one person in particular, if we were to ask how many times that person has already been reborn at the summit of existence, actually, if we were to take the entire world and take every grain of dust or sand and earth that makes up the entire universe separately and count those, still the times that one person would have been reborn at the summit of existence is still more, and even more frequently than being reborn at the summit of existence is a rebirth in the hell realms. So since beginningless time, even a single sentient being has been reborn in the different places, in each of the different places within samsara, countless times. Gonda kan jag kika också.
다 된데 인데잖아. 가르송도 견제 주기고 네. 견제 주가 매번에 매번에 사버쳐봐 손샤도아. 견제 주 이 율라 쇼도고 요래. 견제 주가 율난 대화체 용도 아니 디토비 뇽몽바체 용고 요래. 뇽몽바디 아니 마사는 남에도 네 레드 뇽몽바 ma labgo baten ko leang nyam de ten rugu yore me gona sabar chaba se de nyomo ba ji zimba shu yong de ni le sa so wa de le ji le da nyomo ba ni zom so na ani do de ka chung ke ga se du no korwa ji ni rang la ha do ro wa nam ning ga zo bal den chu je da ba so ye je ba yu da ten ni ne ba zom ba ina ani do ma chung ta me res su chi gen ka to ma res yu dan 겐지 네바데 다 가양로 뭐 만좀선은 그런 라빠벤데 다다도 중투고 말어 와서래 제디 공부 공함 거도 다 야는 겐저도 두자지 이미 잡아요 말또 가양로 뭐지 그런 너 때문에 율던들 외도는 명망바 또 고주고지 봐 소소소소 강나가에 뭐 총댕이면 지르 요절에 대난들 외도는 아니 명망바데 게 명망바데 zembato shu yondu sana ene ko lesa saware ma paso sara dimma ji nuba tene she chojon dang tumbe don ane ala je gu don mela je gu don donjo je gu ida je gu o la so ba tene korola tene chen khorte sabar che ji ju insan ane nyomo ba ja da je bo den zola ane kar sawre sabba sin ming da bare esa aso
So it's actually through the six sense doors that one engages with any kind of object. So the six sense doors are mentioned here. The abscesses over the six sense doors to cyclic existence, by which these disturbing emotions defile. So it's through the six sense doors that one engages with an object. When the six sense doors come into connection with the different objects, then the result of that is the development of disturbing emotions based on those sensations. And so when one has grasped it with the disturbing emotions, then automatically this leads to an accumulation of karma, of different kinds of karmic actions. And that's basically why beings are in samsara, why they're left in samsara. So this also chiki talk about it, dawa talk about it. Chiki talk about it. So actually, this is to say, this follows a quote by Dhammakirti, who said, "When all causes and conditions are complete, then there's no possibility to stop the result from arising." This means that if all the necessary causes and conditions are actually present, then there's no way to prevent a result from arising. And so when the six sense doors meet with the objects, actually either one of the six sense doors meets with its particular object, then certain afflictions arise. There are those that are concurrent and they're not concurrent. So we have to think which ones fit here, but then different afflictions arise. So through the meeting of the sense doors with the objects, different afflictive emotions arise. And as that happens, if that's the cause, then automatically one will automatically also accumulate karma, which then propels a rebirth within within samsara again. So already one's future is defiled. One will be reborn in samsara. So that's why these disturbing emotions that function through or arise through the engagement of the six sense doors with objects then are called the defilements.
Tandi madi ledang nyamdo ne pe chargoba de kaze chung pe don she gyore doa legi independent na azu subu ranshin yobajila ma che sowa ina ma koran de ken ma dila tene ne subu yagi do da sagi do da kangen de chorwa medewa na soro dongal de ma iken la tene chung yong doa ma mena dila tembe dongal soro de nyong mare ma la ten ma yona dila tembe soro dongal de nyong tubi tubu doa o de indu nyomong ba ji tobje lesa leje tobje ne korwala ya pangbam kuruji gyunde tene mutinen roor jebe chawade ne kenjo chuji gun nan kenjo chuji tene latenje lena nyomong be ni zomba la tene chungu yere esa dene sungu yere.
So here, actually, it speaks about an example, right? It talks about the abscesses of the six sense doors. And so how do we need to understand that? It's actually, the example would be that of an abscess or of a wound that we have on the body. The six sense doors are likened to a wound that we might have when we cut ourselves. When there is a wound on our body, then there are different unpleasant sensations that arise because of the wound. It gets itchy, or we might get a fever, or there's just a feeling of heat, or like pain specific to that comes because there's a wound. Well, if there wouldn't be a wound, we wouldn't experience those kinds of suffering. So the wound itself causes further suffering. And so here also we usually speak about afflictive emotions that then create the which then make us accumulate karma, and that's what causes the continuation of samsara. But just as the wound is the cause for future experiences that are painful, now the six sense doors are also like the wound that then propel the afflictive emotions. So it's through that door of the sense doors that karma and afflictive emotions are being propelled.
Nene indu jamgo mewaro meche sungbe yungdu zo pal chawa la loba ne tsik chi la pe mesa kwaya chumbo mongbo yore. Tanda kenju de ina tanda dos tajyo roji yore de. Ani deji yabo chang chala ngoba zo yabo chik de. Ngoba kundu yabo chik de. Dini ma dom sona dini tsik re le dina pa ngoba zo dong kundu ji kongba da wane ma noro ma ro tada yore. Tanda ma sekanda wana tsik di korangi sarpa lukyo roji yore. Ngoba zo kundu kacha sona denzo dewa na yangde kacha denzo nalo peche mangbo ta yore. Di ni pe na lukyo dan cheba denzo sonje dina yungu doa. Di ni tsik chi la pe mezo kwaya chumba yore.
Actually, when we look here at this, just this one sentence in the Gateway to Knowledge by Mibam Rinpoche, actually each word contains a vast meaning. When we analyze every single, like most of these terms, most of the words that Mibam Rinpoche chooses, There's actually a lot to say about this. If we were to study now the gateway to knowledge and then the Abhidhamma Kosha and the Abhidhamma Samuccaya in much detail, then we can really look at the presentation that Mipam Rinpoche gives and correlate it to the presentations in the kosha, for example. Here, this example, we can see how this one word of the abscesses actually contains a full explanation in the Abhidhamma kosha. And if we were to study the kosha and the commentaries on it, first the outer commentary and then the other further commentaries, then we will really see the depth of meaning that is contained within each statement in the gateway to knowledge.
mi lobjong sarba shene lobjong jange jine de goto samare pe mizu kaje le lawo dojo do de kaje pe mizu thagore jang pe gyachada chudu goto sa ya mare lobjong chang sarje kebal은 de goya mendo do kho시an 야좀 chang sar was yaran de pije kaya pendo yang sama de diksa mare sam de hyun sarwa mi baro mo je de shemo shende de mare ne de pije de goba chumbu yos lobjong sawa la samlo dan di changso na diming na shin yasa lobjong ta dirin sanni changen jila na dig mara ta kama kansa te se changsar ju meji te so lobjong che sa ju kama kansa sarwa ji gi ne changso na diming na shin changma ko ko che to gures changsar ju meji lobjong kheba changsar ju meji ge te ba ina ya unko sinje na shin so peje mangbo te temba che do ro 정말 디징은 너무 샤샤요. 디는 거 신진 나진 차고. 강라양 편도 좀 그래서 내내 송 그래. 때 내내 송 용도 다 단다 이야라 때도가 내가 치수 다 결론나나 텔믹스 롭종 자좀보다 지금 말하다 별로 때서 잡으래. 사자님마 가교숨 롭종 미제 건바 가와야 이 말해. 사자 지니서는 괜찮 롭종 지그래. 닝마지지니는 상마지를 까규지는 상마나 제용도 와. 얘는 결로 건조지 벨로 잡그래. 다 단다 가서 저던 자좀도 근데 될 때는 하고도 와. 나서
This being said, back at the time when Mipam Rinpoche actually taught the gateway to knowledge, he considered this a really important and very precious work of his. But one time when he was just teaching it to some of his students, one of his students was like, "Actually, Rinpoche, you think like you say this is very important and very precious, but from my perspective, actually, this work, this gateway to knowledge, is useless. It's too profound, it's too vast in meaning for a beginner. A beginner won't get it. And a scholar doesn't need it because they already know all of it. So why do we have that gate? Why did you write the gateway to knowledge? And so Mipam Rinpoche was probably smiling and said, no, it's not like that. Actually, for a student, a newer student, the gateway to knowledge can be like a key. So this is not applying to someone who starts out completely new, but to someone who has studied a tiny little bit already. If those who have studied a little bit already then study the gateway to knowledge, it's like the key that puts everything previously heard into its place. It turns the lock of knowledge on what they have previously learned. And for a scholar, it's like a pithy reminder. They have studied so much, and if there's no revision of the material, they'll forget. And so for even the most learned scholars, the pithiness or the shortness and the summarizing aspect of the gateway to knowledge will function as a reminder, as review material. And so it's super useful for everyone in that way. And we can see that even now, when we look at the different schools, there's no one who doesn't somehow use the gateway to knowledge. Now, the Geluks, they study a lot, right? They don't have they don't particularly study the gateway to knowledge, but they use the gateway to knowledge for review purposes. So they read it, they do refer to it. And the other schools, Sagya, Kagyu, Nyingma, there's not a single one that doesn't actually study the gateway to knowledge or have it in their curriculum somewhere. So it's exactly that. Everyone, it's actually super useful for everyone, this gateway to knowledge.
Pangja Pongsu ji kola keja ji sheba ina ta nga ji namcha de miksa ji sung yo ma re ma do do ji da tekba khongo ji namcha yongzo ji salbo ji sung nang do wa
So this being said, the gateway to knowledge is actually a summary of all the Buddha's teachings, of all the different points being made. And here in the presentation of the discards and the way of discarding the discards, all the important points regarding this of the Shravakayana, or the fundamental vehicle, and the Mahayana are presented. Only the secret mantra is not mentioned here. That's not included, but all the teachings of the fundamental vehicle and the greater vehicle are included.
Yinayang nga ji lamde re kaisana peje ke namba mangja ngondo dange do dang nga ji ke de zong kongen de zong mangbo ye pare din ha go da khorwa pongbo kham kenje de nga na la se le gye re ta pongbo sana kande ra go ma so bala de ne kenzo charwa kenje sana kai tende sana kare yin tende junyi sana kang da kai nyomo ba pangja kare yin go ma so bala 아니 견도지 차기로와 응가부서 뇽몬바 람드 제세간도 뇽몬 방지 이민 아니 락바강바 고 된저 찍지니니 인선은 하레레레레 담전에 시행고도 와. 다 알랭올라 데코랑 고 마소 발라 가서 간제지니 용도 그래. 아니 된저 사망원비 슝나라 싸우지 손난 거예요. 아니 어떤 봉보 감 견제 공부 같은 데 중에 라소바 아니 장주 쪽에 조숨주 자돈 라소바 된저 사망하게 나무다 남remba chedaji legido wa peje ngaso mangje jerim komgenda ngondo dange jenjaro wa dinanglo dona ngaji lamji keje mangbo ju go maso bodo ngomba shungdo lo yungdo so ta dire to sone pe sawo chagre kaso ko je lamde ro wa ya komba jabe de nga ina ya komba japsa jenza di ngombe shungden zo da ta do shungden zo re jenza koran ha mago wala komba kande jinjam do gore jenza ngaji lamga dogo wena kenza den zore.
Actually, while here the secret mantra is not directly included in these explanations, still it presents the path that leads towards the mantra, Jana. Within you, there are probably a lot to practice the Nundro or different kinds of generation stage practices, generation and completion stage practices, and so forth. And within those practices, and the explanation to them, we actually find a lot of instances where the presentations of the aggregates, the elements, the sense sources are crucial to know. They're mentioned directly, and in the explanations of, for example, the visualizations of the deities, it's important, like all the different parts of the deities and what the gestures and the different features represent. All of this is based within or based on an understanding, a first understanding of the Abhidhamic topics. It's like a ladder or a staircase that leads up to finally the Vajrayana or the secret mantrayana. If one doesn't understand what's going on in the secret mantra, it's often because one does not know the basis on which those presentations are given, and that's what one learns in the Abhidhamma. So really the explanation, the way that we can think about it is that while the Abhidhamma doesn't speak doesn't present the Vajrayana view or explanations directly, it's actually like the path or the staircase that leads up to there. And if we don't understand the basis, if we don't understand where we're coming from or what the previous steps on the staircase are, then how are we supposed to understand the Vajrayana in the end? Right? And so therefore all these presentations of the aggregates, the sense sources, and so on, they are all crucial for understanding the explanations of the secret mantrayana. So let's stop here for today. Please recite a dedication with me.
Sonam ni damje zebani tone nebe rana damje nyega naje bala robai sebe zole roa rolwaraj changjo semjo remboje mage banam ge juruj Jeba nyamba meba yang Tongne rondo belwara shu Laso nukoso tojana sanye jayong.
So take good care of yourselves and see you tomorrow. Laso kempola kiranya. Sanye jayong.